Okay, how you doing? I'm Jeff Wise. I'm your host, along with my co-host here, Reggie Wise, and this is the first edition of the Fan Spot, Season 1, Episode 1. And before we get started, just want to tell everybody a little bit about what the show is. We are NFC East fans, as you can see, the teams that we're representing. The whole show is basically covering all NFC football for 17 weeks of this NFL season. One of the things that I wanted to point out to our audience is we believe that the NFC East is the strongest division in football.
Definitely.
Right. And I know there are going to be a lot of people that's going to disagree with that theory. So if you do, just post your comments on Facebook and we can have an open discussion about that at another time. But what we want to do today is jump right into it, talking about the 2012 NFL season. Cowboys go up to Giants Stadium and
big win.
Big win, absolutely big win. I think there was a lot of redemption there, considering that the Cowboys, where they ended their season last year, having to go to Giants Stadium and repeat that same thing against this same football team. So, one thing I didn't like about this whole matchup, from the beginning, is listen to the commentators and, other people, even just, regular fans, just like ourselves.
Right.
Everyone made it sound like that the Giants were, leading the Cowboys to their slaughter, and everybody seemed to forgot that these two teams were both 8-7, walking into that final game.
Exactly.
So I didn't really see, much of a difference in these teams, except that, at critical points of those two games last season, that the Cowboys failed to make plays when they really needed them the most. But I think ultimately that both of these teams were evenly matched.
For the most part, I think that they were evenly matched as well. And the thing that stood out to me the most was the running games. In the first half, I noticed that both teams couldn't really run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Giants are lacking in that area for the simple reason of the fact that they lost their battle. Brandon, I messed up. Can we edit that?
I was going to say, if I messed up, I was just going to...
Oh, for real? All right. So they lost their cowbell, Brandon Jacobs, this offseason to the San Francisco 49ers.
Right.
This guy that they drafted, pick 32, David Wilson, came into that game with a history of fumbling in college.
I heard about that.
And he continued the same throughout this game with the Cowboys when Sean Lee laid a hat on him, ball came right out, you see the kid on the sideline crying. That's telling me right there that he's not very confident. So they're looking for someone to replace Brandon Jacobs. At that goal line situation, they couldn't get in the end zone.
Right.
So what that's telling me is that they're struggling in the running game, and I think that those struggles are going to continue throughout the season.
It's interesting that you talk about Brandon Jacobs and kind of going back to him. I was thinking when I watched that game, what I didn't see the Giants have is I didn't see them have that attitude, in their offense. And I think that Brandon Jacobs was the one that brought that attitude to that offense.
Right.
And what's weird about it, I can remember last season how everyone always talked about how these two teams were very similar, in their offense, and they have the same type of receivers. But one thing that no one ever mentioned was, their running backs, the attitude of the running backs. It seemed to me that the Cowboys had more of what the Giants had last season in their running game with DeMarco Murray.
Right.
DeMarco Murray seemed to bring a certain attitude to the offense. Even when you look at that last play, when he had that big run, he goes in there, he gets banged around like a ping pong ball. Lawrence Vickers almost tackles him. He spins out. I guess, Jason Garrett, that's the way they called the play. I don't know if a lot of people knew that. But anyway, but he spins out and he takes off down the sideline, and all of a sudden, you see him turning back into the guys. It was almost like he was looking for contact.
Right.
When you have a running back that has that mentality,
physicality.
Yeah, absolutely. It starts to take a toll on the defense after a while. He starts banging that head in there, all the time. And these guys are kind of like, okay, I don't know if I necessarily want to tackle when you start getting into the later part of the game.
Another thing that stood out to me in that game was the emergence of Kevin Overtree. Last year, the Cowboys lost Laurent Robinson.
Right.
He goes over to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and now you're wondering who's going to be that third guy that's going to emerge. And they said this guy basically has sat the bench for 3 years. They've been waiting for him to emerge. And I'm thinking that this may be the guy for the Dallas Cowboys this year.
I always liked Ogletree. I remember you and I having a conversation about him when he first hit the scene in 2009. And I remember him coming into a few games and making some plays for us, as critical points of that game. In fact, we did pretty well that season. But then he just sort of fell off. But now you mentioned, Laurent Robertson, and he's over in Jacksonville now. It almost makes me wonder if these receivers in Dallas, if they're only as good as what they are because of what Tony Romo does. And so you have to raise that question because Laurent Robertson, he did well for the Cowboys, had 11 touchdowns last season, and it always seemed like every time Romo got in trouble, he was able to find this guy.
In fact, he actually led the Cowboys.
He did. He absolutely did. I think Des Bryant was the runner-up. Yeah. So now you look at that, and then we see Wednesday night's game, and it almost looked at it as if Kevin picked up where Robertson left off. So then you have to ask yourself in those same types of situations, and that's what it reminded me of. You see Romo spinning out, bailing out of the pocket, and there he is. He's finding some guy, coming across the formation. I think during the offseason, Jason Garrett, put emphasis on that. If you want to win games, remember, sometimes protection break down.
Right.
You guys can't be standing around waiting for the ball to come to you. You have to go find the ball. You have to find those vacated areas in the secondary.
Romo makes his offensive line better with the ability that he has to escape. He's not a fast guy that's going to just take off on you and run, but he's very elusive in the pocket. He knows how to keep plays alive. And so I think that that's another thing we're going to see further in the season how that pans out with Tyron Smith switching sides with Doug Free, I believe. So we're going to see how that pans out as far as when the pressure really starts to break down in the front of that line. I want to be able to see if Romo will be able to maintain that escapability for 17 games, possibly further.
Yeah, well,
we don't know.
We hope. Let's move on to the Cowboys defense a little bit. What did you see? There were some things in there that I tell you, I appreciated what they did up front. I enjoyed some of that. I still have some issues with some things that may be happening on the back end, and I think that Orlando Scandrick is the weak link of our defense. I feel like that there were certain plays that happened, and he's still not getting his head around. I feel like that, he's playing the man too much. And there were a few of those plays in that game that Victor Cruz, if he hadn't dropped some of those passes, you have to look at that. Orlando Scandrick, you may be in position, but if you're not looking for the ball, then you're allowing the receiver to make a play on the ball, and the ball is right there. I can remember one play in particular where Cruz is running down the sideline. He turns, the ball goes over Scandrick's head. Cruz jumps up to catch the ball, and he just happened to drop it. Now, if Scandrick had gotten his head around, that was a sure interception. And those are the types of things that I think that he really needs to work on. I can't wait till Mike Jenkins comes back. We'll see what he'll be able to do in those types of situations.
That's the thing about the Cowboys. They were winners this offseason. They were winners in two ways. This is their second season in Rob Ryan's defense. And they also went out and got Brandon Carr from the Kansas City Chiefs. And they also picked up Morris Claiborne out of LSU. I think that that's going to shore up the secondary to a degree, but that safety position, I believe, is still a little sketchy. But I believe with Rob Ryan's scheme, he will make parts interchangeable.
And he'll be able to match some of those weaknesses that may happen.
You may even see Jenkins playing a little safety. You never know.
With Rob Ryan's scheme, you can't tell. And that's the thing that I like about what he does. He never really gives the offense an opportunity to really get a beat on what it is that he's trying to do.
When you'll see Ware jump from left to right, to the middle. Different places on the field. So, when you have a sack master like that on your team, you don't know which way he's coming. That also is going to give a lot of problems to opposing offenses throughout the season.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Giants. Now, where do they go from here? Now, the Giants, I didn't see the game being as urgent for the Giants as it was for the Cowboys, considering the fact that, Giants are Super Bowl champs. And everybody says, hey, the Giants, they get hot at the end of the season. So if they lose their first game, it's the Giants. We know they're going to do well at the end of the season. But I guess my question is when I watched them, they did look a little lethargic. They didn't seem, especially offensively, they didn't seem like they had as much punch in their running game as what we're used to because of the absence of Brandon Jacobs. You talked about this other kid that fumbles the ball, and I'm not sure if their running back, oh my goodness,
Lamar Bradshaw.
I'm not sure if he is your every down back. I'm not sure if he's the guy that you want to bring in there to do that down in and down out. And if the Giants end up in that position, from my perspective, I think that the Giants can lose a lot of games if they don't have that ability to. Eli is good. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not taking anything away from him.
Right.
But I don't know if Eli is the type of quarterback like his brother that can throw the ball down in and down out. I really think that he's the type of quarterback that needs that balance.
The thing about it, the key to that game was a lot of drops from Victor Cruz. Big play receiver last year, coming into this opener, dropping 3 to more passes, I believe. That's going to be an issue. He spent a lot of the offseason saucing probably and not doing enough studying the playbook and working on the judge machine. So that's what I believe that they need to do is he need to get back to the basics.
Right.
Stop worrying about writing books and get back to that judge machine, Victor, because you definitely need it because those drop passes, you can't have that throughout the season.
That's right. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the matchup between the Eagles and the Browns. So we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. This is our second segment of the Fan Spot. I'm Jeff Wise again, along with my co-host Reggie Wise, and talking a little bit about the Eagles and the Browns. Now, I tell you, I can't even lie. When I look at this game, personally, I see a slaughter. I just don't.
On paper.
Yeah, on paper. I mean, and I know that they say any given Sunday, but I mean, you have to give the Eagles credit. I mean, this is a team that's loaded with so much talent, and I'm just not sure. Looking at the defensive side of the ball for the Browns, I'm just not sure if they have enough to be able to keep that offense under control.
Well, not only that, but you got to think they're starting a rookie quarterback in Brandon Whedon, which is a 28-year-old rookie, not to mention. He seems to have a good grasp on the offense. They have big receivers. They also have Trent Richardson as their running back. But I don't know if this offense is really ready to take it to that next level.
Right.
Especially against the Eagles defense that's coming into this season hungry after the wide 9 criticisms all last season. That's going to be a tough game to call.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, speaking of that wide 9 that you were talking about, the thing is they need to if they can execute that scheme well, and I think that as the season started to progress, they started getting real good at what they were doing. I think they started to understand a little bit more what the scheme was about and how it was supposed to work. Right. And with the speed that they have, I mean, they started getting after some teams. And you know what? I tell you, I was on Facebook earlier. I got into a conversation with Chris Hope, and he's an Eagles fan. And so, I had said, any given Sunday, talking about this Eagles Cleveland matchup, and he made a comment. He said the thing is the Eagles blew 5 fourth-quarter leads last season. And I mean, you have to really think about that. And so if you give them those wins back, this is a 13-3 football team. And it's the same thing with the Cowboys. We blew leads as well. So the whole playoff picture looks a little different.
It does.
If these teams win these games.
It does.
So now we have to see, where the Eagles are going to go. The important thing for them, though, is they have to stay healthy. If these guys are gonna do anything, if they're gonna make any kind of run, or even if they're gonna, be competitive within the division, these guys are gonna have to stay healthy. I think the last 3 years, since every year since Vic has been back to football, he's been hurt.
Yeah, well, I think through his whole career, he's only had one healthy season through his whole career.
I think.
But back onto the Browns a little more. I believe they have to keep the offense of the Eagles off the field. Because the offense of the Eagles is very fast.
Absolutely.
And they can strike quick. You still have Vic as a threat that can run the ball at any time.
He can extend those plays.
Exactly.
He breaks containment. He gets out of the pocket. Somebody is running down the field not 70 yards.
If Shermer could put together a plan for Whedon to manage the game, run the ball with Richardson, quick dump offs here and there, clock managing plays, I think they possibly may have a chance to stay in the game. If they can win against the Eagles, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I tell you, when I looked at that game, when I saw that the Eagles were opening with the Browns, I shouldn't laugh.
Right.
And I know that there's some Browns fans out there that will probably be offended by that.
Right.
But come on. I mean, I think that everybody that's a football fan will look at that matchup and think the same thing that we're thinking. The game is going to be a slaughter. I just don't see the Browns really having a chance against Philadelphia. You know, that offense, all that speed, McCoy in the backfield. You know, what are they going to do when he breaks containment?
Well, speaking of McCoy, I'm going to talk about another McCoy, Colt McCoy. What do you think about the fact of him being the Browns starter for so many years now? I think 4 years he's been in the league. And now they bring in Wheaton and then automatically just replace him.
See, the thing about McCoy, but he never seemed to get it. You know, and it just seems like that he got to a certain place and just sort of stopped. You know, I think that he has an issue with understanding what defenses are doing. You know, I think that he never really made that transition from college to the NFL. It is a different game. I mean, it's the same game, but it's a different game in so many different aspects. And I don't think that he ever really was able to understand what NFL play was like. He stayed in one place. I mean, every one of his seasons were almost the same. When you look at all of his numbers are almost the same.
That's true.
He keeps continuing to make the same mistakes year in and year out. Now, this other guy that they're bringing in, I'm hoping that Cleveland fans are not thinking that their 28-year-old rookie is going to be the next Roger Staubach. You know, Roger Staubach came in as a 27-year-old rookie. But this guy, you know, the game is different today than it was then.
He was a good quarterback in Oklahoma. You know, if you remember, he played with Justin Blackman. That's his wide receiver, who's now in Jacksonville.
Right.
He's a solid quarterback. The man is already mature
as a human being.
Right. So I can see him having some success, but I don't know how much success. Like I said, I'm a little worried about that defense of the Eagles right now. Coming in the opener, they're gonna be under the spotlight. They're gonna be under so much scrutiny with the new coordinator and everything like that. And I just think it's gonna be kind of tough for the Browns.
I think it is too. I think, if the Browns want to have a chance to win this game, or at least to stay competitive in this game, I think it's going to be what you said. You got to keep that Eagles offense off the field. And one of the only ways that I can see them doing that is they're going to have to be able to run the ball. You know, they're going to have to be able to run the ball between the tackles. They're going to have to be able to sustain drives. You can't let Michael Vick and those guys get into a rhythm, because I'll tell you right now, they will bomb you out. And no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think everybody that watches football understands that this team has the ability to do that.
Right.
So I look at it and I fear for the Browns.
Another point I wanted to mention. We talked about Michael Vick's health. But they had drafted a rookie quarterback out of Arizona, Nick Foles.
I like this kid. He
actually played in the Senior Bowl on the squad that the Shanahan's coached.
Okay.
So we had an up close and personal look at him. And I was very impressed with what I saw out of this kid in preseason.
Yeah, you know what? I tell you this here. I watched a couple of their games as well, and I said to myself, if Vic gets hurt, I'm not sure if I necessarily want this guy to come in. Especially if he gets the opportunity to play with the first team offense.
Right.
With his abilities, I mean, it looks like he read coverage as well. It looks like he has poise in the pocket, and he looks like he has all the mechanics, and he's a big guy.
6'5".
Exactly. And he looks like he has all the tools and the mechanics that he'll need, in order to be able to play football at this level. The only thing that I would say would be his downfall is if these pass rushers in our division start to get after him, because we have a million of them in the NFC East.
Oh yeah.
Every one of these teams have,
right.
So that's what he's going to have to get used to, is the pass rush that he's going to be getting from the teams within the division. So we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Redskins matchup against the Saints. So stay tuned. Okay, we are back here in our final segment of the Fan Spot. I'm Jeff Wise again, along with my co-host Reggie Wise. So the Redskins going into New Orleans.
Like that.
I see you representing them Skins.
I like that subject.
Yeah, I know you do.
Redskins, Saints. Tough game.
Tough game.
Tough matchup.
Yes.
For rookie quarterback Robert Griffin III, out of Baylor Heisman Trophy winner. It's going to be tough. He's home. His home is actually New Orleans, so he's going. It's kind of a homecoming to him. It's going to be 50 or more fans and family friends of his there.
Right.
The Bounty Gate
Yeah, that's right. We were talking about that. So maybe. See, I don't want people to make too much of that. People, want to make it seem like, the bounty gate's been lifted, and now all these guys are gonna get to play, and but people keep forgetting the last time the Redskins and the Saints played, it wasn't like the Saints went in there and just had their way with the Redskins.
Right.
With those guys that are gonna be playing in this game on Sunday. So I don't buy into the concept that the Saints now they got their guys back. Everything is just great in Saints land. The way I see it is the Saints got a lot of things to worry about, especially with the Redskins offense. The addition of RG3 says the Redskins are going to have more speed. When you look at every team in the NFC East, and I'm just going to kind of go back, and we're going to start with the Cowboys. When the Cowboys replaced Drew Bledsoe with Tony Romo, the tempo of that offense changed. It got the Cowboys competitive again and back into the race of possibility of making it to the playoff and being able to have all those things. Same thing happened with the Eagles. When McNabb got to the end of his career, and he just didn't have that burst anymore.
Right.
And they replaced him with Michael Vick. It changed the tempo of that offense once again. And now these guys are flying around. Eli, he's a pretty elusive quarterback.
Right.
In the pocket. But now you add RG3 into this mix with the Redskins, and it changes the dynamics of what the Redskins are able to do on offense with some of these receivers that they have as well.
Wow.
Some of these guys that people haven't had the opportunity to see yet. Talk like Leonard Hankerson. Leonard Hankerson is a guy that'll be coming into this mix. The Redskins acquired
Josh Morgan, Pierre
Garçon. Anyway, we all know that this guy got hands.
Right.
We've seen him make
speed.
Mm-hmm. But we've seen him make some catches. In some games with Indianapolis that you just say, are you serious? Did you really just catch that?
The thing that's troubling me now about this bounty gate being lifted and those players coming back, Vilma is not playing from what I'm hearing.
Okay.
But the pass rush of Will Smith, they need that. That's a much needed pass rush that they're going to need to get RG3 flustered in that pocket. The difference is he can get out along that perimeter and make plays on the run.
Absolutely.
And you also have a plethora of young running backs where you have Evan Royster, Roy Halou Jr., and Alfred Morris that we just drafted out of Florida Atlantic.
And and that's what I was going to say. The thing about Shanahan is Shanahan likes to run the ball.
Yeah.
So I think that having those guys and, being able to have those change of pace guys that have the ability to be able to do different things. I know Will Smith, good pass rusher, but the thing is in this game, and I've said this to people a million times, when you got a team that has good pass rushers, put them in the position where they have to do what they're not good at, and that's not rush the passer.
Right.
Why would you don't want to throw the ball down in and down out and allow these guys to, find their rhythm and teeing off on your quarterback. And so I don't think that Mike Shanahan is going to go in this game with the idea that, we're just going to open up RG3. No, he's going to run the football. You can guarantee that. He's going to slow down that pass rush, make these guys play honest football, and if they man up on those corners with guys like Garçon and Hankerson, guys like that, you still have Santana Moss. You put him in the slot guys, a dude with speed like that, he has a two-way go. You better hope that you have someone in that spot that can really cover this guy.
What worries me, the secondary. The front seven of Washington has shown throughout the preseason and last year they went from 30th to 13th.
Mm-hmm.
The front seven is very good, very powerful. You got Ryan Kerrigan, you have Brian Arapo, and then you have Barry Cofield, man in the middle there. Stephen Bowen, the ex-Cowboy. But what worries me is the secondary. And the reason being is because this offseason we lost LaRon Landry.
Yeah.
We also lost OJ
Yeah.
Otagwe. Now you replace these guys with Tanar Jackson, who's now on a year suspension for smoking too much marijuana. You need to stop doing that. Now we replaced him with Brandon Merriweather. Now he's hurt for 2 to 4 weeks. So now we forced to shuffle in the secondary with Reed Dowdy, who we know is a solid player.
I always liked Reed Dowdy. I remember, during the offseason, I thought you guys were going to get rid of him. And we were looking for a safety. And I remember saying, I think the Cowboys should either go after LaRon Landry or Reed Dowdy. And I've been saying I was jousting for Dowdy last year.
Yeah, I remember.
Because I think that he's a solid guy. Now, he's not a guy that's overly fast, but the point is, I've seen Reed Dowdy lay some guys out too.
That's what he's good at. He's a football guy.
Yes,
he's a smart guy.
Good.
But I don't know how his coverage is deep in that secondary. I remember a game when we played the Texans and we were winning, and like maybe 30 seconds left in the game, Schaub goes back and throws it up to Andre Johnson right over top of Reed Dowdy, and it's just like collapse.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm worried about more than anything. I'm not worried about D'Angelo Hall and Josh Wilson. Them guys pretty much can man their corners down a little bit, but it's that middle of the field that I'm worried about. Without Merriweather there and without Tanar Jackson smoking all that marijuana, not being there, that's going to be an issue.
But you know what? I'll tell you this here. But what's going to make the difference is being strong on that front end. You know, it's if you have issues with your back. Like I'm gonna give it. Like think about the Giants. You know, the Giants didn't have a secondary last season that was something that everybody said, oh no, you don't want to throw over the middle.
True.
You know, they didn't have that. What the Giants had is they had a bunch of guys up front that didn't give you the opportunity to throw to their secondary. That's what they had. And so what I would say is the Redskins need to play within their strength. Put their guys up front in the position where they could get to the passer, create that pass rush. Make him have to do things that he's not good at. Get in his face. Get your hands up when, if you can't get to the pass rush, the passer. Different things like that. But I believe that the Redskins secondary will be all right simply because they still have a guy like Reed Dowdy. And you were talking about that game with Andre Johnson, but that's Andre Johnson.
Right.
You don't find everybody doesn't have an Andre Johnson on their team.
I'm just worried about the weapons. You got Drew Brees back there who broke Dan Marino's record last year for passing yards in the season. And then you also have Marcus Colston, you have Graham, the tight end, you have Darren Sproles. You have a lot of weapons out there for the New Orleans Saints, and I just don't know if the Washington Redskins defense is strong enough to slow them down consistently throughout the game. The Saints averaged 30 points a game last season. You got a rookie quarterback in RG3. Can he match? Can we win a shootout against the Saints?
And see,
I don't know.
And you know what? And the thing is a shootout, I would say probably not. But that's the reason why I don't believe that Shanahan is going to play that type of game. I think Shanahan is going to put the Redskins in a position where possibly going into the mid-third quarter, fourth quarter, you probably looking at a game like 13-10. That's where Shanahan wants to keep this game. He doesn't want and he's going to put the Redskins in a position where the Saints are not going to score a lot of points in this game. I just don't see a Shanahan defense allowing them to just go in. He'll find a way to slow those guys down. I think what the learning curve is going to be with RG3, trying to find his way, to move his offense down the field. But I think that Shanahan is going to put this team in a position where they'll have things under control, so it doesn't get to a shootout situation.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just don't think that that the offense, especially with a rookie quarterback, is ready to do that just yet.
That was one of the controversial things that they've been talking about with the Redskins was, did RG3 get enough snaps during the preseason? So I don't know if he's really prepared. He says he is. You talk to you see the kid. He looks confident. He brings an aura about him. But this is one of the biggest This is the biggest stage of his life.
Absolutely.
You're going into the Superdome where it's loud, it's rowdy there. Your family's there. The bright lights is on. I don't know if he's prepared yet to take it over to that level. I mean, we're going to find out on Sunday.
Well, you know what? The best thing that the Redskins can do going into this game is just maintain their poise. Don't allow the game to be bigger than what it really is. It's opening day, first game of the season. Everybody over, you're traveling, you're on the road, go in with your game plan, know what it is that you want to do, and play your game. Don't put yourself in a position where you end up playing New Orleans game, by trying to get into those shootout situations. That's their game. So don't put them in a position where they can do what they're good at. And that's what I believe. I believe that what Shanahan is going to do is he's going to slow down the pace of the game and not allow the Saints to get into a rhythm. In my mind, it's the same kind of formula that you would use to play a Philadelphia team, as we talked about a moment ago.
The X factor for both teams, to me, I think this game may come down to special teams. And the reason I'm saying that
I didn't think about
is
that.
because you have Darren Sproles, which is an awesome punt returner, kick returner, slash guy out of the backfield, screen plays. And then you also have speedy Brandon Banks. So now you have Brandon Banks now in the mix, which is a guy that they're using now as a gadget player. They're using him as a running back. They're using him as a kick returner. So this may come down to a lot of field position as well with the special team. So I'm looking for that also on Sunday.
So what are your predictions? What do you see?
Well, I'm biased because I'm a Redskins fan. So I'm going to say that in a close game, the Redskins pull it out 27-20.
27-20.
Yeah.
How about the Eagles? The Eagles.
The Eagles and the Browns.
Eagles and the Browns.
I would say that game will end 30-14.
Eagles.
30-14 Eagles, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I tell you, I think it's funny, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I just can't help but think. You know, you got Michael Vick going into the dog pound. You know, he's gonna go in there and slaughter some dogs.
Ooh,
I mean, I just can't help it. I mean, that's just a joke. I hope no one's offended by that.
Touchy.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't help but think that. But
forgive our humor.
But anyway, but I agree with you. I just think that the Eagles are gonna go in there and they're gonna take.
Yeah, I think they're just a much better team from top to
bottom.
Absolutely. Coaching and everything.
Yeah. I don't think the Browns. They don't have the personnel from the top down in order to compete in a game like this. I mean, but you know, again, any given Sunday, you know, we may be surprised, and I think it would depend on how prepared the Eagles are going into the game. If the Eagles go in and they take the Browns lightly, you know, and the Browns are prepared, you know, you're still dealing with a bunch of professionals on both sides of the ball. So
yeah, this is a game of upsets.
Yeah, anyway, it absolutely.
You know, it's always. It turns out sometimes you will say, I'm predicting that the Eagles are going to slaughter the Browns, and then you turn around and then the score is reversed, and you're like, man, it's only scored 14 points.
You know what that reminds me? I can remember a game that the Patriots went into the Browns stadium, and this was when Rob Ryan was still the coordinator for the Browns. And the Patriots go into the Browns stadium, and you're thinking, oh man, the Browns got to play the Patriots, and that score ended up being 34-14. The Patriots got their butts beat. Yeah. You know, so. Yeah. You know, you don't know until these guys actually get on the field. So I think I'm going to call the Redskins as well. I think the Redskins are going to beat the Saints. You know what? But what the Redskins are going to have to guard against is they're going to have to guard against turnovers. Hold on to the football. You don't want to give the Saints offense too many opportunities with the ball. Let them have the possessions that they're owed, you know, on kickoffs and different things like that. But don't give them possessions that
turnovers both ways.
Yeah,
you need
absolutely.
to get some turnovers.
Yeah.
You need to get
gain some extra.
Bring that pressure to Breeze and allow him to throw in small windows. Mm-hmm. We need it both ways because we didn't do very well last year in turnovers. So that's one thing that Haslett's been preaching this whole offseason is creating more turnovers. And also the addition of Raheem Morris in the secondary, I think is going to help out a lot as well. This is a guy that came from the Mike Tomlin tree.
Right. And he's a young guy too. Yeah. And you know what? He's the kind of guy that players respond to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, it looks like we are just about out of time. We want to thank you for joining us at our first edition of the Fan Spot. Join us again next week. I'm Jeff Wise, your host, along with my brother here, Reggie Wise. Post your comments right here on the Fan Spot on Facebook. Good segment. Real good segment.